cool logo. I like this animation.
It's pretty good. Looks like a real CRT monitor too.
Yeah. That was shot on a real CRT monitor by Tom. We could probably pause here.
Yep.
I have a few things to... So just this shot in general was like something that we wanted to like just have like a wow moment, I guess, of like this looks really cool as like an introduction.
Yeah.
And like for lighting in this shot, right? Like we have like pretty like typical like orange and teal kind of complementary colors.
Yeah.
And something noticeable is that like that door that you see that like blue glowing light from, that was actually a shower curtain that we hung up to diffuse the light.
Yeah, and then we just had the light shining right onto the shower curtain, pretty much as bright as we could get it.
Yeah, it was all the way.
Yeah, and then
right.
that just flooded through the doorway into the room, which I think it created a pretty cool effect.
Yeah, so all that blue that you're seeing on the reflection, even in this freeze frame, is just from that shower curtain diffusion of that. Like, it was like an LED light from like Amazon or something. And yeah, it was really handy. And then the rest of the lighting you're seeing is just like light bulbs that we just
lamps
had.
And just whatever we had available.
Yeah, very like practical lighting across this scene. So
yeah, and then I think the rest of the look of this scene really came together in like the color grading, and just we sort of made it all, gave it all this kind of like Finn said, the orange and teal kind of look. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and a bit of a fog like can spray
to just create a bit more
atmosphere.
I
suppose. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, that's good. I think. So I'll talk. We'll talk about the CG, but I'll talk about the like general logistics of this whole like shoot. Right. Fun fact: except for the first shot, none of the shots actually are raining. Which is like we did a bit of like addition of rain in some shots, like VFX, but it was really basic.
Yeah.
And I think half of the reason you think it's raining is just because of the noise. Like there's just rain. So I mean the ground's kind of wet because it was raining earlier, but there is no rain except for that first shot.
Yeah, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 shots in this whole sequence where you can actually see the real rain in the background and like bouncing off different things, but the rest of it was just kind of simple VFX elements that we overlaid over the scene.
And audio.
Yeah, and audio too, yeah. And you can't really, it sort of just blends in with the rest of the look because of the way the film grain sort of ties it together. So yeah, it's not completely noticeable that it's not real until you look really close.
Yeah. And also this whole sequence, except for the first shot of the rain bouncing on the pavement, was shot just in one night with really like no real plan of what we were going to do.
Yeah.
We just went out, and sometimes I feel like that's the best way to do it. Like we could think, what location are we going to do, like where are we going to go, but we just went in the city and shot things.
Yeah.
And it turned out pretty good.
Yeah, and it was really good to have Finn because he was so seamlessly be able to just get into character and yeah, we could just go into the city and start shooting, and he would just be able to really sort of get into the zone, and we could just start shooting, and from there he would just sort of take it from there, and we could sort of wander around and just let the scene play out as we were filming it.
And then also the effect shot that you saw there of the skyline. I'll let Tom talk about that because that was all his.
Yeah.
His
so
work.
that shot of the cityscape with the camera pulling in, that's a full CGI shot
In Blender.
in Blender. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, we were sort of just missing a shot to sort of, I guess, add just more, I guess, context for the setting of the film. So we just created this sort of futuristic cityscape
Melbourne-ish,
in Blender. Yeah.
but not really.
It's inspired by Melbourne, but it's not like a one-for-one recreation. It's it's kind of just a not generic, but it's just a futuristic cityscape. And then we put another rain element over that as well, just to sort of tie that in with the rest of the shots, and color graded that as well to match everything. And I think it turned out pretty well. I think it's pretty seamless when you watch it through.
It feels like it's part of the environment, because and the fact that it's nighttime, I think, really helps with that. Like, that was a way that we were kind of able to, although then it just looking cool, to like get around the fact that it's hard to light things and it's hard to make things look good in the day. So the fact that we shot it at night, just the colors just like work well, and everything looks like it belongs in this environment.
Yeah, and that's something we did for a lot of the film. Just shooting, like, pretty much the whole film is at night, I think, except for the sequence near the end.
Which is like just intentionally one difference is the ending being like
exactly
a sunrise.
Just as sort of a point of contrast to the rest of the film before that.
Yeah. That's a lot of talking, but there you go.
Do you understand the depths of this? If they catch on to what you're doing, you're dead.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Perfect. Sign right there and we'll get on with the details.
Sure. So what's the job?
Next week at the Cobra Club, there's a meeting going on that I have particular interest in.
Here, just an interesting moment in the soundtrack. The basis of the soundtrack is sort of built up from a lot of synth sounds and guitar sounds, and the motif that you hear in that scene during that kind of interview scene, I guess, that motif returns throughout the rest of the film, which you'll probably hear in the later scenes. It's just a synth pattern, and it's sort of
arpeggiated.
Arpeggiated synth pattern, and that's just sort of, I guess, the theme of the character of Cassette Tape Guy. And that returns a few times, and just sort of it's. I guess it just builds like a connection to like the music, and I guess with that it sort of, I don't know.
I think the hope was like you understand that the focus is on this character when you're hearing this motif, and it's just like something to return you to the fact that like I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
it's just to keep you engaged with the fact that like this is the character that we're focusing on, and we have different kind of styles of sound and different, I guess, like musical languages for the different characters, because the Nadia, the woman in that interview, she has like a different kind of motif that we play for her, and the Hitman has a different motif.
Yeah, and we'll see, especially the Hitman motif later, where it's very kind of a different sound to Cassette Tape Guy's motif. There's a lot more guitar, there's a lot more. It's sort of built around sort of this like foundation of this metronome sound. We'll hear that later
very
on. But
rhythmic, precise.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
One more thing I'll add. In the shot that you can see kind of now on the timeline of the sunrise behind Nadia and Cassette Tape Guy, that was originally going to be a lot more. Were we going to do a skyline replacement?
Yes,
we were originally going to like replace that background to have like a futuristic cityscape with like cars on a highway and all this like complicated stuff, and we just didn't get around to it. And
it's just time constraints.
There's going to be moments like that where like like for us, we just we really had an idea and we got like half of the way there.
Yeah.
But sometimes like you just like be a bit too ambitious with the things that you want to do. And we're both not that experienced in visual effects.
So we did the best we can for lots of the other CGI, but with this one, we just decided the best thing we could do was cut it, since there's a lot more other things that were I guess more important for us to focus on at that time.
The other VFX I feel like is important to like the story. Like the cassette tape falling, we want that. It's a story moment.
Yeah.
The background here would just establish the setting a bit more,
Exactly,
which isn't necessarily needed.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was just a matter of just deciding that we could go on without it, and then we just decided not to go ahead with that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
What are you doing?
Tons of methylamine.
What are they going to do with that?
Right? Must be something big. We've got a 2-hour transfer window. No screw-ups, no delays.
Great, so label it. Spring water. Why? Hey, you question the boss's judgment. That's your problem, not mine. You're right. Guys, listen.
And
Yeah,
just,
we'll pause there on that cliffhanger. I'll talk a bit about so this scene in general. Like, I don't think we had a script for the actors, and we had a general idea of what it was going to be, but we also just kind of they're actually these are really talented people, and we just kind of gave them we just asked them to talk, and we gave them the script, and
there they just improvised.
And we just did different angles, and we just got them to do it over and over and over again.
Yeah, and this was actually the first scene we shot in our film. So this was sort of just our we just got right into it, and this was. I mean, it was a bit of a chaotic.
It was.
Kind of shoot.
It's always more stressful than you expect it to be.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we managed to get it all done in the end. We were able to just shoot in just a local bar, which
it's right there actually, from where we're looking.
And we were able to it was very lucky that we had that kind of location to film in, because I think it really adds to the atmosphere, absolutely. And it's very noticeable, just when you look in the background, and I think it was very fortunate that we could film there.
Mm-hmm. So the lighting in this scene is another point. I think we only had one light, right?
Yeah.
We had that same LED panel that we talked about with the shower curtain.
Yeah, and that was really the only light we used throughout the whole filming process, I think. Yeah.
Other than this, that's just light from... Is that the bar? And then we've got to fill... I can't remember exactly what happened here. But we just had to make do with the lighting in the environment. Yeah. And then, the color grade, which is
It's a very heavy color grade. Because
there's a lot going on.
The scene was... I mean,
pink?
it was
on
pink.
The side,
The light was, it was a shade of pink, and then the shadows were sort of more green, and we kind of just completely shifted that in post and sort of created this new look, just because it fit with the scene better, I guess.
Yeah.
Just because it sort of the yellow and green creates this murky kind of.
This is the Cobra Club, so it also felt reptile-y or
exactly.
and that gives you that little bit of criminality, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think also moving on from lighting, the most interesting thing in this scene for me is the sound.
Yes.
Because specifically the sound of that cassette tape, sort of using that to build tension in the scene. which was something we played around with a lot in editing and just finding out the best way we could sort of use that to
the best sounds to like stack on.
To layer sounds and just really crescendo that until that moment where it cuts out and we just have those few moments of silence.
And just to finish it off, some other interesting things about the sound here. Like, this is one of very few scenes where we actually shot sound on the day.
Yeah.
I mean, there was that interview scene, but other than that,
Yeah.
pretty much all like no talking or the audio's it's ADR, like it's dialogue replacement.
Because it is very hard to do sound, which we found out the hard way, but it's sound is definitely a big challenge.
We had Tom's brother helping there, which was quite helpful. He was below the table, and we had a couple mics facing the actors here, and we just had to make do.
A rotation of people just specifically for holding the mics and setting all that up. But the scenes where we did ADR, I think it's not too noticeable.
The phone booth, we'll talk about.
Yeah, we can talk about that when we get to it. But with this scene specifically, I think we were lucky enough to have audio on the day that worked really well. So we didn't have any need to overdub it, which was very
saved a lot of hassle.
Yeah. Pause it here?
Yeah, yep. So, interesting things about this are, first of all, we've got a VFX shot in there, which is that tape hitting the ground. And that was kind of done out of necessity more than anything. Because on the day, we did actually have someone throwing the tape on the ground and then it coming out and sliding.
Yeah, and we did get that shot originally, but
it was off to the side. You could tell it was coming from like the side instead of dropping down from above.
Yeah.
And it was really hard to get like the exact spin that we wanted.
Yeah.
So
it looked fake, and the only way that we could make it look more real was
to actually fake it, which was a long process. It was about like 2 days of just like working on this. But we got it to a point where like I feel like it's maybe we're biased, but we showed some people and it wasn't like pointing out glaringly obvious.
Yeah, so we could leave it in
tape
without worrying about it being obviously, a VFX shot. I think we sort of got away with it.
And then it bounces down and it comes and it looks like just perfect.
And it does look really clean and perfect, but I think that's why it makes it easier to look at, I guess. It makes the scene easier to follow. So it was just easier to sort of have it animated sort of very precisely like that. And
it was like a physics simulation.
Yeah.
And then we did it like a bunch of times until it got like the exact spin that we wanted.
Yeah.
And Blender is an amazing tool.
Blender is just
3D. Carried the VFX in this. But yeah, also another thing I'll mention. This whole scene was like we just wanted as much tension as possible because what you're about to see actually in this frame right here is we want to like break that back down. We want this build up of energy and anticipation, and is he going to make it out? Well, he dropped the tape, he got it just barely, and then we're going to have it all cut down back to nothing, and then we're going to have this moment of just like pause.
That's the only moment in the entire film where there's just an entirely black screen and it's just a complete break between sort of the two sections,
and that also kind of signifies the fact that we are doing a bit of non-linear here of like this thing has happened, I've gotten to the door, and now we're restarting from another character's perspective before that door thing happened.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's very intentionally a change in colors, a change in mood, a change in sound, a change in energy, as much as we can.
And just with sound as well, the piece of music in this scene underwent a lot of revisions.
Yes. We have early versions.
Yeah,
of
we have very early versions of that. Maybe like months before we started filming.
Yeah.
Maybe even before we started scripting.
Inspired by a song from the Tenet soundtrack, a film by Chris Nolan.
It's Trucks.
Yeah, Trucks in
Place.
Place.
Yeah.
It's called. We took a lot of inspiration from that.
Yeah,
initially, and then it kind of turned into.
Yeah, it sort of evolved into its own thing, but that was very unapologetically sort of lifted
inspired.
from that. It's particularly with the sidechain sort of sound.
The thudding rhythm.
That was very much sort of inspired by Tenet, and near the beginning of the piece when Finn's cassette tape guy is running through the corridor, you hear sort of a tram bell sound.
Oh yes.
So we actually we used the sound of a tram, which sort of connects it to the later scene when Finn gets on the tram, and it's sort of, I don't know, like
we want
musical foreshadowing, I guess.
Also, like we like Melbourne, and we like trams, and we like that like grungy kind of feel, and like I don't know, we just wanted to
just
involve
using that as like an instrument in the piece. We thought was like kind of cool.
Yeah.
So yeah. And there you hear the ticking sound there.
Yeah. Love that shot. Can't get over that. And then we hear that.
Sorry, sir. Club's closed.
I think we'll there's a lot to unpack there. I think I want to mention the fact that, I feel like that pause in energy really gives the hitman this identity of, and the fact that he's sitting there, I mean, like, we don't want to encourage smoking, you know, but he's smoking, he's very relaxed, he's very, like, almost like not present in a way, like compared to the frantic nature of cassette tape guy.
Yeah, it's really the first time we see this character, and it's just immediately establishing sort of, you know, his
attitude, which is very much he's in control. Things happen at his own pace, his own clock. Like he is running the show, and he doesn't have to rush to anyone else. You know, there's this calmness and there's this controlled nature to him.
Yeah. And then just this scene as well, in the outside of the club, was actually shot across a few different locations, which we sort of tried to combine in post. Yeah. And for the most part, I think it's not really noticeable that you're looking at two different...
So we go from a corridor inside this apartment, and then we cut to a place, Ballarat Road, a tram stop, and then we cut to a parking lot near this apartment for the close-up of this door when the hitman goes up against it. And there's a lot of changing there, and it's very imperfect. The door isn't the same, the side of the door is wrong.
We kind of had to just cut and paste our sort of favorite pieces of all these different locations and kind of like tie them all together.
You're never going to find the perfect location of a door that you have access to on an exterior next to a tram stop. It's just impossible. So as long as I feel like the story is clear enough what's happening, we can kind of get away with the fact that like this just isn't perfect.
The geography of this sequence doesn't really make sense. But when you watch through it really doesn't stand out.
As long as you're following, you know, the fact that there's a door and I'm trying to get out of the door. If that's established, then you know, the audience will just kind of forgive you on the details.
I think so.
Also, the shot of the bouncer being shot by the hitman here, that was interesting for a number of reasons. I feel like, because first of all, that was not planned to be in that like those like corner reflective mirrors that just happened to be on the location.
Yeah.
And we kind of wanted to obscure the violence. We didn't want the gun to be like that obvious. We don't want to feature
the gun, which in that scene is not actually a gun, but
it's actually a phone in
Yeah.
that shot of that mirror, like because there's cars going past, and we didn't want like something that could be actually mistaken as a gun.
Yeah.
So we tried to like obscure that violence, and I feel like that helps for the ending scene too.
Yeah.
Because then we do just show like blood on
Yeah.
someone's face, and that makes that all the more like shocking and confronting.
Yeah, exactly.
For that contrast. Also, the flash that you see in the mirror of the gunshot is the same light, and it has a strobing mode. And you would turn on the strobe, and then it would flash after about a second or two.
Yeah.
So we would just
very
like,
careful, just like
we
turning.
would try to
around.
time that
Yeah.
like perfectly.
And we did like a lot of takes. I think maybe like I'm gonna guess like 10.
Yeah, it would have been
10 takes maybe
to get that timing of that gunshot right,
Yeah.
with the bouncer collapsing, with Julian doing the recoil, the hitman doing the recoil correctly.
Yeah, and just filming it through that reflective mirror just turned out to be good to have the lighting sort of reflecting off of that. Instead of as you were saying, like anything more sort of explicit than that would have been just I don't know, maybe distracting.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
So
Also, I feel like, you could argue that from the hitman's perspective, he's not really registering the violence. Like, this isn't really
it's
something
just his job.
Yeah, we don't want to focus on the brutality of this person being killed, because we're very much seeing this from the hitman's perspective right now. When we go to the ending, we see that violence more because we're kind of taking it from my perspective, and we follow me to that ending. We follow the the cassette tape guy to that ending scene, whereas the hitman's kind of focused now until the cassette tape guy runs out in this next moment.
Right.
I want to wait for the music. Okay. I think we'll pause it there. That's a very cool sequence. I love this moment of the film for so many reasons. I love this moment in the tram with the music. Anyway, we'll start from the
but
start.
also a very complicated sequence to
Yes,
shoot.
God help us. Filming on trams is complicated, and getting the shot exactly how you want it. We had a lens that we bought for like
maybe like $30.
Yeah.
Which is actually, we shot a lot of the film just on this $30, it's like a CCTV camera lens.
Yeah.
And it turned out to just give the film like kind of a really unique look.
Yeah, we shot on a lot of cheap, like relatively cheap old lenses.
Yeah.
Like the most expensive one we had was like $150 off eBay.
Yeah.
And like you can find some really good like old cheap lenses. That was like Tom just searching on eBay for like gems of like cool lenses. But the one we shot for the shot into the tram from the hitman's perspective, as you zoomed in, it changed the plane of focus.
Yeah.
So as Tom was zooming in, he had to also refocus. So it was just an incredibly difficult shot because the tram is moving away.
On top of the fact that we had to get the timing perfectly with the tram arriving and so the blocking of the scene happening simultaneously, which was already an impossible task. We had to get the zoom shot in focus, which we did in the end, I think, with the shot of the tram. Yeah,
it was enough in focus where we felt like it wasn't distracting. Like there's a moment of like blurriness, but like that's not necessarily a bad thing. Being out of focus there.
Yeah.
And that whole shot, like we kept calling it like the impossible shot. Like it's near the end of the shooting.
Yeah, it was maybe one of the last days we
the
shot.
second last day.
Yeah.
And we just kept thinking...
We did sort of leave that for last because we knew it would take...
It's just impossible, right? And, like, we thought about it and we tried to plan it, but in the end we just had to do it. And it basically came down to looking at a tracker of when the next tram was coming,
Yeah.
me getting on the tram, or Tom getting on the tram and shooting back to Julian, and us using the fact that there's 2 tram stops next to each other so we could get twice as many attempts at the shot.
Yeah.
But I would get on the tram, go a stop, and then run back, and then we would reset, cross the road, and then get on the tram for the other direction.
And that was just hours of that until we had all the footage.
Hours,
Yeah.
like dozens of times getting on that tram and off, and confusing the poor people on that tram.
Yeah,
and
it was the
tram
same driver.
Yeah, we saw the same driver
That
multiple
looped
times.
back onto the
Anyway,
other side.
you know, you just have to like tune out of the fact that what you're doing is socially very strange, and just focus on, you know, the art,
Getting the shot and just
But yeah, it was worth it in the end, because I really love that moment. I love everything about this scene. There's also a shot here actually on the screen where you're seeing a reflection of the inside of the tram. But it looks like we're shooting from the outside of the tram. And we had multiple people comment on, how are you on the outside of a moving tram? How are you looking into the tram? And we never intended it to look like that.
Yeah.
In fact, the shot is flipped, which wouldn't make sense if it was on the outside of the tram.
Yeah.
But it just kind of fell into place that it looks like that, and people like that. So
yeah, a lot of people did point that out.
Yeah.
It's just, but yeah, that reflection shot, I think it was just something we decided to do when we were there.
Yeah.
And it was just something that looked good in camera, and we thought that, you know, we might as well have that sort of as this, like, I mean, I guess, like, obviously an actual reflection, but also sort of like a moment of reflection for a cassette tape guy.
Which is also part of the soundtrack, right? Like, this is kind of the calmest soundtrack. With the Hitman, we had calmness, but we also had intensity and punctuality.
Yeah.
Whereas this, it's very non-rhythmic, and we've just got these like paddy chorusy sounds that are very in my, like, it gives you this sense of relief. It's this, okay, things are okay. Like, we're a bit uncertain, but we're calming it down.
Yeah.
Which is, again, we're calming down because we're about to build it back up, and we're about to get back into this more uncertainty with the motif of the cassette tape guy coming back in.
Yeah, exactly.
Then we've got a black shot here again, kind of that change in pace again.
But all these other black shots, they still have that film grain. Yeah.
Hello, Nadia?
Hello? What's going on?
Yeah, look, can you meet me at Kings Park? Yeah, I've got the tape.
Kings Park? Yeah, I can get one of my guys there in about half an hour.
Okay.
Hello?
This shot, a couple things. First of all, the audio on it is all a replacement audio. So on the day, we didn't actually shoot. Oh, we did shoot audio on Tom's phone.
Yeah.
It didn't sound
It
very
didn't
good.
blend. It didn't just work with the scene.
Yeah. So we, I actually the way, like, the best way to shoot, like, replacement audio, right, is to get as close to the actual thing as possible. We don't want to record this in, like, a perfect studio that, like, we don't have access to, and we have to process the audio.
We don't have the skills exactly to process it to sound
sound like a phone booth.
If it's,
the way we did it is, I watched the shot and looked at what I said, and then I went. It happened to be raining, actually. I went near my house to a phone booth, and just, like, got my phone out. That audio is actually on a phone, and I just kind of pointed the phone towards the back of the phone booth, and then read my lines out. And that just sounds like a phone booth.
Yeah.
And it gave me the opportunity to get those lines cleaner and to get them correct.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the audio on this scene turned out really.
Yeah, it synced.
I think it's seamless.
Yeah, it's you don't really, you can't tell.
There's one moment where I actually, like, mouth a word in the footage that isn't said on audio, and that was a mistake that we did notice, but we just didn't fix it because I don't think you notice it when you watch the film.
Any fix that we would have made to that would have been more distracting than just leaving it. And
Yeah.
Sort of, because we could have cut it. We could have, added that line back in. We could have, there's just a few things we could do, but the lines that we had already worked pretty much like exactly as we needed them to, and adding anything more to that would have just been too much.
Yeah, and
So
there was no need, and I don't feel like, it's kind of like, I don't know how to word this, but I don't feel like it needs to be perfect. I don't feel like everything needs to be exact. Like, surely, like, there is a certain, like, craft to getting everything exactly how we want it. But I feel like this is something where it just didn't need to be exactly perfect. The other thing about this shot is lighting. Yeah. Again, only one light.
The same light.
And it's the same light, and it's that, it's a very orange glow, and we actually had the hitman, Julian, holding this light up for a very long time. It was like, holding something above your head. It's like not very light.
He was
he
really carried that scene.
Yes, carried that,
and the light.
Indeed, yeah.
We also used, since the phone booth was sort of in an undercover area, it was raining at the time, but we used just a spray bottle, just with water, and sort of sprayed water onto the closest face of
Let
that.
it kind of
that
drip
glass.
down a bit.
Yeah, and then the light obviously behind that, just backlighting the water and really just creating this, I don't know, like just texture, I guess, in the scene where you see all these droplets just in the foreground.
Yeah.
And I think it just really, I don't know.
Yeah, and also, like, again, the color grade in this scene. Like, we had an orange light, but those blues that you're seeing in those shadows and the other light, there's no green light. Like, there was no green light on set.
Yeah.
Like, that's very much just a very, like, far pushed color grade that we just get away with because it's so dark, and because the skin tones in this scene aren't really obvious. We're mostly seeing the light being reflected off the skin, so we can really do whatever we want with the colors because most of the scene is black.
Yeah, exactly.
So the colors that we do change, we can get away with ruining anything else because there is nothing else. Like, there's just black. So, the night really helped us out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah, okay. Are you with Nadia?
Okay,
We'll
pause
pause it, yeah.
there. The first thing I'll mention is music there. So we go from that very, like, we're moving, the same motif we got from the start, and then we start detuning it, and we start, messing with the pitch and getting this eeriness, because up until this moment we were kind of confident. The cassette tape guy was getting to the end goal, he got the tape, he was getting out of there, he had that rhythm to him, and then he felt uneasy, and then we start, and it's very much part of the mood in this scene, the fact that the soundtrack starts tearing apart, and we start
really
widening of these, like, pitches that we're hearing.
And as we hear that theme sort of slow down and the pitch shifting down, we hear the Hitman theme
ticking,
come back in. Yeah, that ticking motif again. And
counting down, in a way, the seconds of the cassette tape guy's life.
And the last tick you hear is timed with the gunshot.
Yeah, we have tick, tick, bang.
Yeah. Like a countdown, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just having that sort of motif. So you sort of hear the hitman, or you sense the hitman coming before you see him in the scene. Just to sort of add, I guess, that tension again. And yeah.
And even up until the point where the hitman pulls out the gun, we were hoping that we still didn't know if the hitman was a bad guy, because story-wise, right? Like, the hitman let cassette tape guy out. He saved cassette tape guy's life by shooting that lock on the door and then stopping the people. So at this point, we're still not really sure who the hitman is. We don't know his name's the hitman, for example. Like, these things haven't been established by him, about him. So, the soundtrack isn't necessarily, like, bad, it's just uncertain. And we're getting unsure, and we're getting uneasy. And that's really what
just setting in the tension with that sort of discordant kind of sound with the music there.
The other thing, the logistics of this shot. This was pretty difficult. We had school. No, we didn't. We had school on the rehearsal day. Did we? We didn't have school.
We didn't
this
have school
day.
on the same
We
day.
did a rehearsal. We did a. We had to wake up. I think like 5
a.m. Maybe
yeah.
4. No, yeah, 5.
It felt earlier.
Did feel earlier.
Anyway,
it probably was.
I woke up pretty early to try to get to this location.
Yeah.
It's in Avondale Heights. Actually, it's a park, and the original reason we chose it is because it looked out onto the city.
Yeah, which you see in that
skyline.
earlier shot of
Yes, of
Cassette
me
Guy
walking in. That's a good point. I was going to say we didn't really end up using it, but as Cassette Guy's walking across to that bench, you see the city in the background, which is like kind of where we were at the start, and now we're like in this like location far away.
And it is just there's no VFX there. That is just Melbourne, sort of as it is.
Color grading,
yeah,
but
obviously
no,
color
no fakeness to that.
Yeah,
shot.
like the shot near the beginning where we've got the sort of but it sort of goes by so fast that you don't
Yeah, it's
don't
not
think
something
that
you completely register, but it is there, and it you see lights in the background.
Yeah.
You notice the fact that the cassette tape guy is walking in front of something.
Yeah.
And then also, I think I'll mention the fact that the original idea was to have, I think, the city in the background of maybe even this shot.
Yeah.
But we
just
got
with the
there,
direction of the sun,
it just it didn't work out, and
Yeah.
I think we still have a really good shot here.
Yeah.
And this was kind of, I think, inspired by John Wick Chapter 4 in a sense, or no, we had the idea before.
It was probably before, but that definitely sort of there was
guided
a
us.
few shots that sort of did guide us, I guess. And
because I remember we had the idea mostly before John Wick, and then we saw John Wick, and then we're like, that is basically what we want to do. There's this sunrise shot.
That was
at the
the
end.
visual sort of guide for what we wanted to do with the scene, and once we saw that, we sort of knew what to do.
Yeah, it
with
gave
this
us
shot.
a focus of this really orangey gradient across the sky, and then this complete silhouette of the characters here. And I think that's pretty much that scene.
And we were just very lucky to have just the sun rise, and it was just
barely any clouds.
Yeah, no clouds. Completely clear.
Just got lucky. It was a very cold morning. That could have been better. It could have been a bit warmer, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Which didn't help for the shot you're about to see of me on the ground. Anyway, yeah.
Is it done?
It's done.
Good. He needed to be taken care of. Clean up?
One more. Bouncer. He, got in the way.
I'll take care of it. Do you have the tape?
I'm on my way now.
Perfect.
Yeah,
You're a lifesaver.
So after the gunshot, after the cassette tape guy is shot,
we hold on that shot.
Yeah, for an uncomfortably it's an unusual amount of time. It's probably the longest. Yeah, it's the longest we're on anything up until this point by far.
Yeah.
And at the same time as we have that, we're in this moment of just kind of realization, right? And then we have the phone kind of cut you off there and bring you back into the fact that, okay, things are happening. And then we have this room tone, I think it's called, come back in, which it's the kind of this eerie, I feel like it sounds like a refrigerator.
It does,
or it sounds like some sort of machinery idling. And that is Nadia's kind of...
office.
her office
or
sound.
Just, her, it's sort of having that come in before we cut to that shot is just... sort of placing you in that environment before you see it,
and I think it's just it's an unsettling kind of sound for the outdoors. We're not expecting that noise to be there. And then also just quickly to add to the actual gunshot moment, that was a bit of VFX. But it when we're silhouetted, it kind of makes everything
a
lot easier. Because we have that blood splurt come out the back, and we have the muzzle flash. But it can all kind of be black and because it is all silhouetted.
Yeah.
That kind of made that come together
A lot
in the sense
easier
that
to-
it didn't have to be complicated. And also, we don't have any depth here. It's a flat image.
Yeah.
We're looking from far away, and we're just seeing outlines. We're just seeing silhouettes, right? So there's no perspective. There's no masking. There's nothing really that complicated to the VFX in that shot, which just made it really easy. You know, you still have to find the right asset, and you still have to get everything looking correct. But it really did help that kind of tie together.
Yeah.
With that VFX there. And then one more thing, behind the phone shot, when Nadia is going to pick up the phone, that was another shot where there was going to be a heap of VFX.
Yeah.
We were going to completely replace that skyline.
Because that's the same location as we see the earlier scene with the interview.
Yes.
Where we wanted that cityscape in the distance.
Yeah, and we wanted clear skies.
Yeah.
We wanted the phone to actually be ringing.
Yeah.
Which the phone isn't.
But we made it really hard for ourselves with how we shot it because
Yeah.
we wanted to get all these shots done. Sort of, this was shot kind of at sunset, and because
Which
we wanted
isn't
to,
a lot of time.
Yeah, it's not a big time frame to get all the shots we needed because we wanted it to match like the sunrise shots of the Hitman at the park.
Yes, true. Yeah, I forgot.
So that was
We
the
did,
decision to shoot it at sunset and sort of have it match. But
Through the color grade.
yeah,
Because
the
that
color-
is really the only difference
Yeah,
that you
exactly.
can tell is color.
But the particular shot of the phone, we did kind of leave it too late, where it's
We did.
it was too dark, and as much as we could light the scene, sort of just using again that same light.
It's just not the same. Like it's very pointed and directional when you
Yeah.
light from a thing this big
Yeah.
versus an entire window.
There's not much we could do with that shot in post.
Yeah.
So we just.
And the phone is meant to be lit up and ringing, but you know, like to do that, we would have to have had fake lighting because the glow from the thing, like that would have been a pretty like complicated VFX shot. On top of the fact that we're masking that entire skyline because Nadia is going over top of it. There's a lot of complexity to that. And again, you know. We've got the phone ringing. That cues to the person this is a phone ringing. And the audience, it's not completely necessary. We would have loved for
We
that
had
shot
enough.
to look the way it was in our
Yeah.
minds, but you know, you have to. There are constraints to a Year 12 media project,
Yeah,
and
with
any
just
project.
the two of us doing everything
Yeah.
and sort of juggling, you know, all the other things we had to do between sound and
Year 12.
color grading. Yeah,
I mean,
and
you've
year
got
12,
you've
yeah.
got every other subject to worry about. It's a lot of work.
It's and it's just another time when we had to just say that it was just a decision to cut it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's going to have to do.
And the shot still works. There's
Yeah.
not any. We're not taking.
It's not a
anything away
story
from it.
element. Again,
Yeah.
it's not taking away. It's not an important.
There
point.
are a lot of cool things you want to have,
Yes.
like in the film, but yeah, there's a lot of decisions to be made about can we actually realistically do this.
Yeah,
you know,
and-
with the time frame that we have, with the resources that we have.
We really wanted to do it.
Yeah,
we really did.
It was a very hard decision to make because we really did try to
Yeah.
to
But
get
it also
working.
was just kind of a bit outside of our ability
Expertise,
to.
yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't get something that just looked good enough. And I guess if it wasn't going to look real, then we just
Then
didn't
it wasn't.
want
It would
yeah.
be too distracting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's- Australian bird sounds. And we'll pause there.
We'll pause there.
So, right?
Yeah, that ending also went through a lot of revisions. But yeah, the sort of decision to have cassette tape guy, just that final really sort of extreme shot.
We
of
didn't
the-
know if we could. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah,
we didn't know if we could do that much. Like, but when we were thinking about applying like the top screen related stuff,
Yeah.
we were like, "Is this too
Is
much
this too
blood?"
much? Yeah.
Because it's a lot. And like when my mum saw that shot, she was like, you know,
Shocked,
It's
yeah.
a confronting image. But we kind of we needed that. Like
Yeah.
we needed that visceralness to
that
it.
final
And-
just sort of Yeah,
We
it's
wanted
like this deep in your stomach, just feeling where it's like it's yeah, I don't
It's
know.
brutal.
Dread, yeah.
And additionally, we wanted the last shot to be really good.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like this is like, I guess you could relate it to like Psycho.
Yes,
you know, in a way,
yeah.
like that close up of that eye. And you know, we're not moving in, but we've got movement of the blood in like across the Kaseptic guy's face. And, you know, as much as I tried to be really still in this shot, this benefited a lot from a bit of VFX.
Yeah, and the fact that we shot it in slow-mo
yes,
did help
we did.
a lot. Yeah.
We shot it in slow-mo.
I think half speed, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was half speed, because we've got, first of all, we've got like a general, like, because because me, who played Cassette Guy, is on the floor here in like, you know, like 13 degree, probably less. So I'm on the ground, and it's kind of hard to not like shiver at that point. And then on top of that, you've got like liquid dripping down your face.
It's actually really impressive how you managed to stay so still during that.
But I didn't, because we faked it. So
we did, we faked
to
it
a
little
degree.
bit. Okay.
Basically, there's a couple times where I half blinked or I twitched my eye, and we did some VFX where we just took a freeze frame of my eye and superimposed it over for those moments.
Yeah, but those changes were just minimal. I think still, the shot that we had was still...
We stabilized it.
Yeah.
We stabilized my movement, my just general shake to get that eerie stillness. And other than that, there's not a huge amount of movement.
Yeah.
But it was just those little touch-ups to push it all the way to like, that is like a shot that I'm really, really proud of. And, you know, I think it really ties it together. And that one blood thing going under that eye, I think that's really... incredible shot.
Yeah, it's just sort of a happy accident to have the blood sort of just move.
Well, we did a lot of...
We did
a lot of blood.
Yeah.
We
just
did
trying to get it to move.
Yeah, Tom would splatter more, and every time he did it, he's like, "I'm sorry," and it's like, "No, it's fine. We need this." And I was at one point I was like on the verge of tears, and I don't really know why, but I'm just like, I was so focused on I'm just doing the shot, and I was like gripping into the ground to try to not torture as in pain, but I was just like, I need to get this. I want to get this. I want this to be like as still as possible and as lifeless as possible, and I just didn't want to compromise on the shot. I did not want to compromise. Yeah. And, you know...
And you did it.
And it was holding up you in freezing cold, and poor Julian as well, just sitting there. But yeah, we could have spent... I think we spent 20 minutes doing that.
Too long.
Yeah.
But you were very dedicated to getting it perfect.
Yeah.
I wanted... You know, we said that we could stop. We could... we maybe have enough footage. But yeah, we kept going, and you said you just wanted to get it, and I think we ended up with something that was we're
really proud of.
Yeah, and another sort of accident that I think worked kind of well came in editing with the scene. We do have that close-up shot of the tape spinning, which is the same as the shot we see earlier in the Cobra Club. It's just a different color grade on there. And that sort of just is used as like a
jolt you back into.
Yeah,
like we have this calm moment it's calm, but it's still wrong because we're seeing a dead person, right? But we just kind of are like drifting
just
out.
The lack of movement into this like extreme close up of this,
really loud.
Yeah.
Like that's a really loud sound.
There's a lot of times we do that
in a way.
Yeah, maybe too much. We have these sort of jump scare moments.
Sound shifts.
Yeah. But there's a lot of dipping between like extreme high volume.
We have a lot of dynamic range in that audio. And then as we were showing that to the hitman, actually, we played that sequence. And there was this moment where he suggested like a second cut to that tape spinning, right? Yeah. And then when we dragged over the clip, we didn't drag over the audio. Yeah. So we played it back, and then we played it without the audio, and there was just something in that moment where we're just like, we don't want there to be audio on that second shot of the tape, and it just felt empty. It just felt empty, and you were expecting that noise to be there, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And in that moment, we were just like, that's it.
You see it that
And
one time with all the sound, with everything.
Yeah.
We see his face, and then we see it again, and it's just...
And it's
it
gone.
just felt, it was exactly just what we needed.
It's
and
hard
it was
to
just
explain,
a complete
but-
accident.
Yeah, and it was just, you get those moments from showing things to people. Like, we kind of wanted to keep as much a secret from people, because we wanted it to be
We
like...
wanted to have the best experience with them when they watch the final product.
But,
and-
someone who's as involved as Julian, the hitman, was,
Yeah.
we showed him that last shot near the end of the entire process.
Yeah.
And it's like
And it just happened, and-
accidental moments like that really give you those moments where, it really hit me in my stomach. Like, I felt that when we saw that.
And
for the
from
first
there, we
time.
just left that on the timeline.
Yeah.
Then maybe a few small changes to the timing or whatever, but that was, we left that exactly the same after that sort of, that little just accident that turned out to work really well.
So-
And there's, a lot of that throughout the whole movie. I think, that's pretty much it.
That's it. That's tape 108.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the director's comment. Love the soundtrack. The credit song is one of my favorites.
Yeah, it is sort of, I don't know, it's sort of a bit of everything.
Yeah, mashup.
Yeah.
Yeah, we combine the motifs and we have another build up and we have this phase.
Yeah, and then we're rounding up.
Yeah.
Some of the credits at the end are a bit shorter just because of that tempo ramp. But
Yeah.
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 That's it. That's it.